Billionaire Dad, Special Kids, and tonight the Black Housekeeper changed everything. Alexander Miller is a billionaire obsessed with keeping his image spotless. The world sees him as an unbeatable businessman, but at home he struggles with reality. Raising two special children on his own after the early death of his wife. When Isabella Carter is hired as a housekeeper, her stunning beauty draws stares and suspicion. But what truly changes everything is the deep and unexpected connection Isabella develops with the children. Little by little, she begins to see and appreciate Emily and Danny in a way even their own father couldn't until one tragic night reveals a secret about Isabella that could turn this family's life upside down. Before we start today's story, I want to make a special invitation for you. Leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from. I love seeing how far our stories reach. And if you enjoy intense love stories full of twists and emotional endings, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss an episode, and you'll also help this project grow, so we can bring you more and more heartwarming stories. The heat of the Los Angeles night clung to the skin when, suddenly, the mansion was plunged into darkness. The lights went out with a dry snap, the air conditioner went silent, and the distorted sound of a distant alarm died out soon after. It was a neighborhood blackout, the kind that catches Beverly Hills off guard on days of extreme power usage. Alexander Miller stepped out of the glass office with his phone in hand, the glow of the screen lighting up his angular face, pale with worry. The long hallways looked like a maze of shadows. Emily? Danny? His voice cut through the darkness, firm but anxious. 9-year-old Emily was in the side garden near the fountain. She wore discreet, rose-colored hearing aids that helped in quiet rooms but failed amidst chaos and distance. In the dark, she lost her point of reference and couldn't figure out where her father's voice was coming from. Silence flooded her ears like a wall, and her heart raced. Without the pathway lights, she took a step back, hesitated, and almost tripped on the stone step. Inside the house, 6-year-old Danny was climbing the grand staircase when the blackness wrapped around him. His low vision got much worse with little light. The railing vanished into the shadows as if someone had erased it. He misstepped on the third stair, wobbled, and let out a short gasp, more from fright than pain. Dad? Danny's voice came out small, trembling. That's when Isabella appeared. She held a compact flashlight in one hand and an emergency kit in the other. Her golden brown skin glowed under the cold light, her straight dark hair tied back in a ponytail that left her face free, her light brown eyes sharp, scanning the space. Her athletic body moved with precision, without drama, like someone trained for the unexpected. Danny, with me. She brought the flashlight closer to her face, casting a soft light that didn't blind him. Look at my hand. I'll guide you, okay? Okay, he answered. Reaching for the lit edge of the stairs, Isabella pressed the back of her hand to his forearm, offering a non-threatening point of contact. Short steps. One at a time. Listen to my voice and feel the stair with your foot. I'm right here. Alexander appeared at the top of the stairs, his tall silhouette framed against the window. Is he okay? Scared, but steady. Isabella kept her eyes on Danny. The flashlight on the floor, pointing up, creates contrast. Helps to see the edges. She aimed the beam at the baseboard. Great, one more step. That's it. Perfect. Danny's breathing slowed, following her rhythm. With each step, the boy grew more confident, as if the light knew the way before he did. Emily's still in the garden, Alexander said, jaw clenched. She didn't hear me. I'll go. Isabella handed a backup flashlight to Alex. Hold it like this low. Don't point it at his eyes. Then she led Danny down the last steps to the foyer, where the marble floor reflected the light with a milky shine. No time, she crossed the service corridor and reached the side door leading to the garden. Outside, the world was a watercolor of shadows. The damp scent of jasmine, the distant murmur of sirens in the city, the now silent fountain. Isabella raised the flashlight, but not directly at Emily's face. First, she lit up her own from below, like switching on a small personal stage. Emily, look at me, she said clearly, facing the girl just a few steps away. I'm going to speak slowly. Emily fixed her eyes on Isabella's lips. That small rectangle of light was all it took for her mouth, teeth, and every syllable shape to become readable. Isabella articulated precisely, without exaggeration, "You're safe. Take 2 steps toward the light, slowly. I'm here, Emily." Obeyed, guided by the rhythm of the words and the shape of the light. As she got closer, Isabella raised her palm, signaling a pause. "Breathe with me." She inhaled slowly, exaggerating the chest movement. "That's it. Let's go back. There are 3 steps. I'll light the ground. Watch my lips and my feet." 3 steps, Emily repeated, softly, confirming by reading her lips. "That's it. First one." Isabella lowered the beam to the ground, outlining the stone's texture. Now the second. Almost there. The girl regained her composure, slightly flushed, her hearing aids gleaming in the dark like 2 polished metal dots. When they stepped through the door, Alexander and Danny were waiting in the hall. Alex held the flashlight exactly as she'd instructed, so it wouldn't blind his son. His face, serious by default, softened when he saw Emily next to Isabella. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" "Scared, but okay," Emily said, focusing on the flashlight and her father's face, measuring every sound. Isabella knelt beside her, at eye level. "We're going to make a new rule for blackouts, okay? You look for a light and a face. I'll speak slowly. Your dad will too. And you tell me when you don't understand." Emily nodded. "Got a dot? What about me?" Danny squeezed Alex's hand. "Can I go up the stairs today?" "You can, but only with the right light," Isabella replied, pointing at the beam near the baseboard. "Low light coming from below outlines the steps. Tomorrow we'll practice a safe path." Alexander looked at Isabella like he was suddenly seeing a solution, where there had only been guilt and anxiety. The light hit her face from the side, revealing the firmness of her jaw, the focused glow in her eyes. More than beauty, there was precision, care. "Calm down. Thank you," he said, almost in a whisper that didn't match his reputation for having a commanding voice. "I didn't think about the light's position. It's the little details that make a difference," she replied without showing off. "The house is big. In the dark, it becomes a different house. We adapt the house to them, not the other way around." The generator finally roared in the distance, and the emergency lights created an amber path along the baseboards. The mansion regained its contours. Emily let out a short, relieved laugh, and Danny opened his arms to his father, asking to be held. Alexander lifted his son and with his free hand tucked Emily's damp hair behind her ear, revealing the tiny device that sparkled under the LED light. "Isabella," he said, more firmly now, "tomorrow I want you to show me everything we need to. Make this house ready for any blackout." "I will," she replied, meeting his gaze without fear. "But it's not just the house, Mr. Miller. It's the routine. The way we speak, the pace, the lighting. All of it builds safety." He nodded, like signing a contract without paper. For the first time in a long time, Alexander felt he wasn't fighting an invisible enemy alone. And for the first time, he realized that Isabella's presence wasn't just convenient, it was transformative. "Then let's start today," he said, and the way he looked at her, for a second, wasn't how a boss looks at an employee, but how a man tries to understand where so much calm comes from. The morning after. The blackout, the mansion had already returned to its usual shine, but Emily woke up with her body tense. Her private school uniform felt tighter than normal, the plaid skirt perfectly pressed, the white shirt freshly ironed, and her rose-colored hearing aids matched the hair ties holding her half-braid. In the car, at each traffic light, she carefully adjusted the discreet volume knob on her device. Danny, smaller and curious, held his navy blue backpack on his lap and watched the scenery go by with his chin resting on his father's shoulder. Alexander drove with the focus of someone who wished he could be in 3 places at once: the company boardroom, the school gate, and inside his children's hearts. The school campus looked like a catalog: deep green lawns, light brick buildings, and a sign with the institution's name in polished bronze letters. In the courtyard, the noise was an ocean of laughter, shouting, bouncing balls, and uneven footsteps. Emily took a deep breath, adjusted her backpack strap, and tried to map the voices, but everything blended into a whirlwind. Her father's words came through in fragments. "I'll pick you up after school." Emily focused on his lips and filled in the rest of the sentence in her head, nodding slightly. Alexander leaned down to face her, remembering the night before. "Call me if you need anything, and look at me when I talk. It's all going to be okay." "It will," Emily answered, almost smiling. They were swallowed by the school routine, and Alexander returned to the car. Isabella, who had made breakfast and packed their backpacks, stayed by the gate for a few minutes, observing. The morning light reflected in her light brown eyes, revealing the attentive way she studied the space, like someone searching for solutions before even seeing the problem. The first blow came during recess. In the cafeteria, noisy fans, trays clattering against stainless steel counters, and chairs scraping the floor created a chaotic roar. Emily held an apple and tried to hear the girl sitting next to her, but the words dissolved like they were coming from underwater. A boy in her class, cap turned backward, leaned in and spoke without looking at her. "Hey, why do you wear that thing on your ear? You look like a store mannequin." The words hit like a rock. Emily went rigid. A girl giggled and whispered something Emily couldn't understand. The boy repeated it, now looking straight at her, over-enunciating each syllable like he was mocking her. "Can you not hear?" Emily took a breath, touched her hearing aids, and kept her chin up. She opened her mouth to reply, but the word didn't come out fully. The cafeteria noise shoved her voice back down. The apple slipped slightly in her palm. She stood up and moved to a table near the window where the sound was less aggressive. Even so, the word spinning in her mind was "weird dot in the yard." Meanwhile, Danny avoided the shaded area under the trees. The morning sun created dark and light patches on the rubber playground surface, and where the shadows deepened, his world lost definition. He preferred to stay near the yellow-painted bench, where the lighting was even. 2 classmates called him to run, but he hesitated. He crossed his fingers, pressed the back of his hand against the bench, as if grounding himself through touch. "Come on, Danny," one of them shouted from a distance. "Later," Danny said, watching the ball roll back and forth. The later never came. At the end of the day, Alexander was called into the office. The room smelled like lukewarm coffee and printed papers. The coordinator, a blonde woman with a soft tone, had a professional smile and a picture frame with a diploma on the shelf. "The day wasn't ideal," she began. Emily isolated herself at lunch. "We received reports that some students made inappropriate comments." "And Danny?" "Well, the teacher noticed he avoids shaded areas. Maybe this school isn't the best fit for their needs." Alexander clenched his fingers on the arm of the chair. The phrase "maybe this school isn't" echoed like an unwanted stamp. "If it's not a fit," he replied, "I can put them elsewhere." I can hire a private team, homeschool them, whatever it takes. I won't let my children be subjected to this." On the ride home, silence filled the car like foggy glass. Emily looked out the window and saw her reflection break against the buildings, while Danny kept his eyes fixed on the silicone bracelet on his wrist, spinning it slowly. Isabella opened the door when they walked in. Alexander's blazer was unbuttoned, his tie not loose, like he'd been wrestling with his own image all day. Danny ran to the kitchen for a glass of water, and Emily stood still in the marble hall, her backpack slipping off one shoulder. "How was it?" Isabella asked, already reading the tension in the girl's face. "Too noisy," Emily said, choosing each syllable. "And they laughed at me." Isabella felt her stomach tighten, but her voice remained steady. "I'm sorry." "What did you do after that?" "I sat by the window." "The light was better," Emily said quietly. "I understand better when I can see someone's face." "There, no one looks," Alexander cut in, impatient, his tone masking pain with precision. "It's over. I'm pulling them out. I'm not going to allow this." Isabella turned to him, not aggressive, but unshakable. "They don't need to hide. They need to be seen." The sentence hung in the air, and Alex didn't seem to like how it resonated. "You weren't there," he snapped defensively. "You didn't hear what they said, or see how they looked at her." "I know enough," she said, lowering her voice slightly as she stepped closer. "If you take them out now, the message they'll carry is that the world is too big for them. What the school needs is to learn how to see. And so do you." Alexander took a breath, stepped into the kitchen, then came right back, like someone trying to outrun the truth and finding the same door on the other side. "So what do you suggest? That I wait until some kid films my daughter and posts it on the school's page with a nasty comment?" Isabella held his gaze, eyes steady. "I suggest we go there tomorrow. I'll stay with them during recess, evaluate where the sound is most confusing, and propose simple changes. A quieter corner table, the teacher speaking while facing Emily, a visual signal by the door to ease class transitions. For Danny, high contrast markers on stair edges and a clearer path across the yard. It's not about spending millions. It's about adjusting the environment." "You talk like you know the school better than they do," Alexander said, unsure whether it was a criticism or an observation. "I talk like someone who sees what most people don't," Isabella replied calmly. Today, Emily found the window and the light on her own. Tomorrow, the school needs to be the one offering the window. Emily looked up, a flicker of hope lighting her eyes. "You'll come with me?" "I will," Isabella said with conviction. "And you'll tell me everything that gets in your way at lunch." "I want every detail." Alexander stayed silent for a moment. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from the coordinator with a link to a parent forum. He opened it and held his breath. A short video from the cafeteria, Emily in the background. Stifled giggles and a crude comment suggesting some students aren't ready for the school's pace. His face hardened. "This is already going around," he said, showing the screen to Isabella. "Then we respond with presence," she replied, "with visible actions. Let them see me there tomorrow. And you, if you can be there at noon." Alexander closed his eyes for a moment, like signing an agreement with himself. "Tomorrow at noon," he repeated. That night, as the house quieted down, Isabella placed high-contrast tape on Danny's backpack and gently wiped the lenses of his glasses like a caring ritual. Then she wrote in a notepad, "Map cafeteria noise, table position, visual cue on door, safe path on playground." In the hallway, Alexander watched her unnoticed, leaning against the doorframe, his face partially lost in shadow. The sight of her bringing order to chaos with small, thoughtful actions touched something in him he had forgotten existed. The next morning, Before the sun fully cleared the mist, Alexander's phone buzzed with an unexpected notification. An urgent meeting with the school's administration and some influential parents who had seen the video. The email's subject line was cold, formal, but its contents promised fire. He stared at the message and for the first time didn't think about his image. He thought about the window Isabella had promised to open and decided to walk into that room with her. The meeting at the school ended in tension. Influential parents complained, the administration tried to justify, and Alexander, for the first time, didn't defend his reputation, he defended his children. Isabella, steady by his side, said little, but each word landed with precision. When they left, night had already fallen over Los Angeles, tall buildings reflecting the last streaks of light. The car rode in silence, Emily looking down, Danny dozing off against the window. Isabella gazed out too, but she seemed to be somewhere else entirely. At the mansion, after putting the kids to bed, Alexander found her in the kitchen, still in uniform, lit only by the warm glow of a copper pendant light. She was writing in a worn notebook, fingers moving quickly across the page like she was sketching ideas before they vanished. He walked closer slowly, placing his hands on the marble counter. You speak with so much conviction out there, but I don't know where that knowledge comes from. You're not just a housekeeper. Who are you really, Isabella? She paused, took a deep breath, and closed the notebook gently. Then she looked up, her eyes steady, unafraid. I started nursing at UCLA. I was in my 3rd year. I've always been passionate about health, about understanding how the body can be helped through science and technology. Her voice trembled slightly, not with shame, but with memory. But my mother got sick. There wasn't enough insurance. The bills piled up, and I dropped out to take care of her. I had to work anything I could find. That's how I ended up in houses like yours. Alexander stepped back slightly, surprised. You studied nursing? I did, and I never stopped keeping up with the field. I spent nights reading, researching. Just because I put on a cleaning uniform doesn't mean my mind went to sleep. She opened the notebook again and turned it so he could see. Meticulous notes, device diagrams, printed article clippings, and sections from medical studies. I found advancements that could change Emily and Danny's lives, not miracles. Science. She pointed to one of the pages. Look here, hybrid cochlear implants. They're different from regular hearing aids. They're for kids like Emily who still have some residual hearing. This device blends the natural sound she can still pick up with electrical amplification. That gives her much better quality, especially in noisy places like school. With proper auditory therapy, she could actually join conversations instead of withdrawing. Alexander frowned, skeptical. You're telling me there's something better than what I already bought for her? There is, and it's not about money, Alex, it's about knowledge. Medicine doesn't stop just because someone already spent a fortune. New research comes out every year. You didn't know because you didn't look. He went quiet, staring at the notebook. His gray-blue eyes reflected the kitchen light and the weight of her words. Isabella took a breath and flipped to another page, this one showing diagrams of eyes and retinas. And Danny, he's not doomed to always fear the dark. There are ongoing gene therapies for mild retinal dystrophies and smart glasses with sensors that enhance night vision. I read about children who started riding bikes again without fear because they could finally see in the dark. He deserves that, Alex. Your kids don't need to be hidden. They need tools. Alexander swallowed hard, stepping closer. You talk like someone who has more faith in my kids than I do. It's not blind faith, Isabella said, steady. It's science. And love. Love that doesn't quit at the first obstacle. You have power, you have influence, but you haven't been paying attention to what really matters. They need you. and everything new that exists to help them. The silence that followed was thick, almost physical. Alexander leaned on the counter, his face just inches from hers. For the first time, he didn't see her as a housekeeper, but as someone holding answers he had never thought to seek. Their eyes locked, full of tension, recognition, and something neither of them was ready to name yet. "Show me more," he whispered. "I want to see every article, every solution." Isabella nodded, without breaking eye contact. "I will. But on one condition, you don't make any decisions alone. Not as a boss, not as a father. You'll listen. You'll learn." Alexander took a deep breath, and after a few seconds said, "I promise." From upstairs, the soft sound of Emily coughing broke the moment. Isabella closed the notebook and held it to her chest. Alex still watched her, intrigued like someone who had just discovered a valuable secret that changes everything. The next morning, Isabella walked into Alexander's office with a simple folder in her hands. He, still in a dark suit, looked trapped between reports and charts flashing on the monitor. When she placed the folder on the desk, the click echoed like a break in the rigid routine of that space. "Today I want to take Emily to a university lab. They have a prototype of a next-generation hearing device with artificial intelligence. This isn't an empty promise, Alex. It's real. It could change everything." Alexander glanced away from the screen, narrowing his eyes. "Do you realize what it means to expose my daughter to tests? What if it doesn't work?" Isabella leaned forward slightly, firm. "And what if it does?" For the first time, she could feel like she belongs in a conversation. This isn't just about hearing. It's about living. Alexander's silence cracked when Emily walked in, curious. Backpack still on her shoulder, her green eyes fixed on Isabella's face. Isabella knelt to her level. "Emily, would you like to try something new that might help? You hear better at school?" The girl hesitated, biting her lip, then nodded slowly. "If it doesn't hurt, it won't hurt," Isabella said gently. "It'll be like wearing something made just for you." The lab was on a university campus, inside a modern building of glass and steel. The hallway smelled faintly of disinfectant, and the sounds were muted, as if the walls knew how to keep secrets. Emily clutched Isabella's hand tightly, while Alex walked beside them. Clearly uncomfortable outside his usual zone of power. In the test room, a specialist showed them the small device. Unlike standard hearing aids, it was almost invisible, with sensors that picked up voices and canceled background noise automatically. Isabella smiled at Emily. "Look, it's like it was made just for you." The girl allowed the device to be fitted behind her ear. The technician said something simple. "Good morning, Emily." She blinked, surprised, and murmured, "I heard that." Alexander swallowed, stepping closer. The technician motioned for them to talk. Isabella sat in front of Emily, looked her in the eye, and spoke slowly. "Emily, tell me, what color is my shirt?" "Navy blue," she replied without hesitation, without asking for a repeat. Her voice held a firmness she'd never shown before. Alex discreetly covered his mouth with his hand, hiding his emotion. Isabella continued, "And what do you want for lunch today?" Emily laughed, spontaneous, and answered, "Cheeseburger." The sound of her own laughter made her smile even more. "For?" The first time, she wasn't outside the conversation. She wasn't a spectator. She was part of it, fully present. Alex turned away for a moment, his breathing unsteady. His gray-blue eyes filled with tears he couldn't hold back. His hands, so used to contracts and numbers, trembled slightly. Isabella noticed, but said nothing. She simply watched as he pulled himself together and returned, placing a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "You look beautiful when you smile like that, Emily," he said softly, just for her. The girl lifted her face, beaming, and for the first time responded effortlessly, "Thank you, Daddy." The silence that followed was filled only by the sound of their breathing and the glow of the unexpected. Isabella knew that moment would be remembered forever. Outside, the afternoon sun lit the university courtyard. Emily ran a few steps ahead, lighter than she'd been in a long time. Alexander stood still for a moment, watching her with a mix of pride and regret. "I haven't seen her smile like that since her mother was alive," he confessed, almost in a whisper. Isabella looked at him, her eyes steady. "Ben starts seeing it every day from now on, because that smile can't be ignored anymore." He nodded, moved by the strength of her words. But deep down, a fear was growing. If the world discovered this breakthrough, the media's eyes would focus even more on his family. In the days following Emily's discovery, the house seemed to breathe hope. But Isabella noticed something in little Danny. Whenever the sun began to set, his eyes lost confidence. He tripped more on the rugs, clutched his sister's hand tightly when they passed through dark hallways, and avoided playing in the garden at night. One evening, as Emily read aloud with her new device, Danny held a toy car and murmured, barely looking at anyone, "I don't like when the light goes away. It feels like the world disappears." Isabella knelt in front of him, gently touching his face. "Danny, you see better up close, don't you?" He nodded, his blue eyes filled with fear. "I see up close, but when it's dark, everything turns into shadows." Alexander, watching from the doorway, felt his heart tighten. "I thought it was just childhood insecurity. But it's more than that, isn't it?" Isabella didn't answer immediately. She stood up and, with a restrained gesture, said, "We need specific tests. It's not just insecurity. I want specialists to see Danny." Days later, at a hospital in Los Angeles, the diagnosis hit them like an unexpected weight: early-stage retinitis pigmentosa. The doctor explained with a careful tone, "It's a genetic condition that affects peripheral and night vision. He still sees well up close, but over time the difficulty could increase." Alexander sank into the chair, hand over his face. Emily held her brother's hand like a shield. Isabella, beside them, kept her eyes fixed on the doctor. "Are there options to slow the progression?" "There are promising studies. Experimental therapies, augmented reality glasses that improve vision in dark environments, even gene therapy, but still in limited centers." When they left, Alexander looked like a man torn between anger and helplessness. "My kids are not lab rats. I won't expose him to risks." Isabella took a deep breath, holding back emotion. "Alex, it's not about risk. It's about the future. I found a center in Boston. They're conducting gene therapy combined with augmented reality training. The goal isn't a miracle. It's to preserve and improve functional vision, to give him tools to face the night without fear." "Boston?" he repeated, incredulous. "You want me to take my son to another state to be a guinea pig?" She stepped closer, steady. "He's not a guinea pig. He's a pioneer. It's giving him a chance that other children never had. You saw what happened." With Emily, she laughed, Alex. For the first time, she laughed without being afraid of not understanding. "Danny deserves that win too." The billionaire turned his eyes to the garden through the hospital window, tears forming. "I don't want to promise something that might not happen. If he gets disappointed, if he doesn't try, he'll never know what could have been," Isabella replied, her voice trembling but resolute. That night, in the children's room painted with planets and glow-in-the-dark stars, Danny held a small flashlight and pointed it at the ceiling. "Daddy, do you think someday I'll be able to see the stars for real, even when it's dark?" Alexander couldn't answer. He just hugged him, hiding his tears in the boy's brown hair. Isabella, standing in the doorway, watched the scene with a heart torn between pain and hope. Hours later, in the quiet office, Alexander finally gave in. He went looking for Isabella, who was organizing some papers about experimental therapies. "Book the trip to Boston," he said softly. "If there's a chance he'll see the stars, I'll take it." Isabella looked up, emotional. "You won't regret this, Alex. This is the beginning of something bigger." He nodded, but deep down he knew. The decision would bring not just hope, but exposure. The media wouldn't overlook a billionaire taking his son to an experimental center. And maybe, amidst so many lights, the shadow of judgment would come too. The decision to take Danny to Boston seemed final. But in the early hours before the trip, Alexander paced the office. A portrait of his late wife Claire still hung on the wall, her smile frozen in an old family photo. He stared at the image as if searching for approval or maybe forgiveness. The weight of responsibility crushed him. Isabella entered quietly, carrying a folder with reports about the Boston Center. "Everything is ready. We have an appointment, lodging, and the specialists have already received Danny's tests." Alexander turned abruptly, his eyes tired but filled with a fear that showed as anger. "You talk like it's simple, but it's not. I already lost the woman I love to a hospital. I'm not going to lose my kids in experiments." Isabella took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "No one is talking about losing. We're talking about giving them a chance. Danny deserves this, Alex. Emily too. They can't live hidden in this fear that only grows." He stepped forward, his voice raised, his face hard. "You're just the housekeeper. Don't tell me how to raise my kids." The words echoed through the hallway like thunder. Isabella flinched. The wound wasn't just from the words, it was from the ingratitude after everything she had done. Her eyes filled with tears, but she stood tall. "If that's how you see me, then I have nothing more to do here." Alex's eyes widened, but he didn't move. Isabella removed her apron, folded it carefully, and placed it on the chair. "Thank you for the opportunity, but I can't stand by and do nothing while you deny your children the right to try." She walked toward the door, her heart racing. That's when a soft voice broke the silence. Emily stood on the stairs, in pajamas, her hearing aids reflecting the hallway light. "Don't go, please." Isabella turned around, emotional. Emily stepped down 2 stairs slowly, looking from her to her father. You make me feel normal. At school, I'm always the different one. But when I'm with you, I feel like I belong somewhere." Danny appeared right behind, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "If you leave, who's going to help me see the stars?" Alexander was speechless. His face slowly crumbled, the cold mask giving way to vulnerability. Isabella knelt down to be at eye level with the children. "I never wanted to leave you, my loves. But if your father thinks I don't have the right to help—" "You do," Emily interrupted, firmly, as if she had found a new kind of courage. "You understand us. You look at us differently." Danny grabbed her hand. "Don't go, please." Isabella swallowed hard, emotion tightening her throat. "I'll only stay if there's respect. I'm not just someone who cleans this house. I'm someone who believes in you." Alexander was breathing heavily, the weight of guilt falling on him. His silence said more than any argument. Emily and Danny clung to Isabella as if she were the only anchor in the middle of chaos. The scene unfolding before him was impossible to ignore. His children clinging to the woman he had called just the housekeeper. Alex backed into the living room, where the photo of his late wife seemed to watch him with judgment. His heart pounded as if it were about to explode. In the dim light, he realized he was standing at the same crossroads he'd faced years ago. Hide behind pride or choose the risky path that might bring hope back to his children. The difference now was that someone was willing to walk that path beside him. That night was far too long for Alexander. After the painful scene in the hall, he locked himself in his office. The half-open blinds allowed a sliver of moonlight to shine across the portrait of his late wife. He lifted a glass of whiskey, but left it untouched. His eyes fixed on the photo, as if begging for answers. Claire, I don't know what to do anymore, he murmured, his voice hoarse. I tried to protect them from the world, but maybe I've just been hiding them from myself. The silence of the house made him hear the soft steps in the hallway. When he opened the door, he saw Emily asleep on the couch, clutching the notebook Isabella had left filled with notes about new treatments. On the cover, in a child's handwriting, were the words, "Isabella believes in me." Alexander knelt beside his daughter, gently touching her blonde hair, and felt the crushing weight of guilt. For the first time, he admitted he hadn't seen his children as kids but as fragile heirs who needed shielding. Isabella, in so little time, had done the opposite. She'd given them the courage to exist in the world. The next day, before sunrise, Alexander went to the small guest room where Isabella was packing her things to leave. She was facing away, folding clothes in silence. "Isabella," he said, his voice low, almost hesitant. She didn't turn around. "No need to explain. I'll leave before the kids wake up. It'll hurt less." He took 2 steps, stopping behind her. "I was wrong, really wrong. I said things I don't believe. But they came out because I was scared." She paused, still not facing him. Fear doesn't justify humiliating someone who only wants to help. Alexander took a deep breath, his throat dry. "You're right. I didn't know how to deal with the possibility of losing them. And when someone touches what I love most, I lash out. But I can't deny what I've seen. My kids are different when they're with you, stronger, more alive." Isabella slowly closed the suitcase and turned around, her brown eyes full of tears, yet steady. "Then why did you treat me like a threat?" "Because I wasn't ready to admit that I need you," he answered, his voice tight. "Not just as support for the kids, but as someone who sees what I can't." The silence stretched between them, heavy, until Isabella crossed her arms, testing the sincerity in his eyes. "And now? Are you still going to try to control everything on your own?" Alexander shook his head. "No, I want to apologize. I want you to stay. And I want to continue with the treatments. Emily and Danny need you just as much as they need." Emmy. Tears finally escaped from her eyes. Isabella took a deep breath, emotion cracking her voice. "If I stay, it's because we're walking this path together. No boss and employee. No walls between us. I only believe in staying if there's respect." He stepped closer, looking into her eyes with an intensity that wasn't from a businessman, but from a father broken, and from a man beginning to surrender to a feeling he hadn't expected. "I promise, Isabella. We'll walk together." At that moment, a child's laugh echoed in the hallway. Emily and Danny were awake, hiding behind the slightly open door, watching. The girl ran to Isabella and hugged her around the waist. "I knew you weren't leaving. Daddy needs you just as much as we do." Danny added, grabbing his father's hand, "Now we can see the stars, right?" Alexander looked at Isabella, and for the first time, they both smiled at the same time. It wasn't just reconciliation. It was the beginning of a silent pact, kind of promise that would change the course of that family's life. The days that followed marked a completely new routine in the Miller household. The decision was made, and for the first time, Alexander allowed himself to trust the process, not immediate results. The mansion, once a cold space of marble and silence, now filled with schedules, medical appointments, and the constant presence of Isabella, who guided every detail with patience. Emily was the first to begin. In the speech therapy clinic, cozy room with pastel walls and educational toys on the shelves, she put on her new state-of-the-art hearing aids. Beside her, Isabella held her hand, and Alexander watched, his shoulders tense, unable to hide his nerves. The speech therapist smiled, pointing to a box of small bells. "Emily, I'll ring it, and you tell me where the sound is coming from." The chime rang through the air. Emily blinked, looked in the right direction, and smiled. "There." Alexander covered his mouth, his heart racing. Isabella squeezed the girl's hand and said, her voice filled with emotion, "That's it, Emily. You did it." As the weeks passed, the progress became even clearer. At a family dinner, with clinking cutlery and overlapping voices, Emily looked up and interrupted her father. "Daddy, did you say the meeting's at 9 or 7? Alexander nearly dropped his glass. "You understood with all this noise around?" She laughed, proud. "Yes, I heard it." He took a deep breath, unable to hold back his emotions. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart." While Emily advanced with sound, Danny began facing his own challenge. In Boston, the Specialist Center welcomed them with cutting-edge technology and a dedicated team. The procedure was delicate. Gene therapy injections, applied directly to the eyes, a process requiring surgical precision and bravery from such a small boy. On the day of the first procedure, Alexander could barely sit still in the waiting room. Isabella, steady, placed her hand over his. "He'll be okay. Trust." Minutes felt like hours until the doctor came in, removing his surgical mask. The procedure was a success. Now we need time. The improvement will be gradual, not immediate. In the days that followed, Danny still stumbled at night, but he no longer looked as unsure. Isabella created games with flashlights and simple obstacles to help with his spatial awareness. "Follow the light, Danny," slowly but with confidence. 1 month later, on a cool afternoon, Danny asked for something unexpected. "Can I try riding a bike in the garden?" Alexander hesitated. "I don't know if it's too soon," but Isabella stepped in calmly. "He needs to try." The world won't wait. With his helmet secured and Isabella running beside him, Danny pedaled. At first wobbly, but when the shadow of the tree covered part of the path, he didn't stop. He adjusted, found the outline, and kept going. Emily, radiant, clapped. "Go, Danny, you're doing it." Alexander stood frozen, unable to move a muscle. The tears rolled down without him realizing. The boy rode halfway across the lawn and, as he stopped, raised his arms triumphantly. "I saw, Daddy." "I could see." His father ran to him, lifted him into his arms, and without hiding the crack in his voice said, "You're stronger than I ever imagined." Isabella watched the scene with teary eyes. There was no miracle, no instant cure. It was science. It was time. And it was love stitching each victory together. That night, Alexander looked at Isabella on the porch under the clear sky. "I spent so many years trying to protect them in silence. And you, in so little time, brought light and voice to this house. I don't know how to thank you." She answered calmly, "You don't have to thank me. Just never forget they're not fragile. They're extraordinary." The soft breeze moved the curtains, and in that moment, both of them knew the next steps would be even more challenging, because every victory also lit up the unwanted spotlights of the media, and the storm of judgment was just about to hit. The recent victories brought peace to the Miller mansion, but soon the press struck. Headlines splashed. Billionaire Alex Miller and romance with housekeeper, and treatments used as publicity. Photos showed Isabella with the kids, and even a look exchanged on the porch. Comments questioned Alex's role as a father and accused Isabella of being manipulative. Frustrated, he tossed the tablet aside. They turned everything into a spectacle. Isabella, pale, replied, "I knew they'd come after me, but I didn't think they'd use the kids." Emily came down the stairs confidently. "They don't know what she did for us." Alex tried to convince himself, "I'll deny every word." But Isabella cut him off. Deny that there's something between us? Are you going to hide me like you hid your children? Days later, at the school science fair, Emily presented a simple project on sound. Speaking into the mic, she declared, "I thought I'd be invisible until someone believed I could be more than a diagnosis." That person is Isabella. The auditorium fell silent. A classmate filmed it, and the video went viral within hours. In the car, Alex murmured tensely, "Now the media is going to demand a response from me." Emily replied, "You don't need to hide, just tell the truth." That night on the porch, he found Isabella. "They're going to keep talking," she said. Alex held her hand. "Then it's time I spoke for us. I'm not hiding anymore. Not you. Not my kids." Her eyes filled with tears, this time from relief. In the embrace that followed, there wasn't just passion, but the decision to face the world together. The years passed, marked by struggle and triumph. Emily, now a teenager with radiant green eyes and discreet hearing aids, stepped onto the school theater stage. Her strong voice moved the audience. Alexander, holding Isabella's hand, whispered, "Did you hear every word?" She smiled. "I heard, and I felt it." "She'll never be invisible again." At the end, Emily said, "I want to study law, to fight for people like me. If someone believed in me, I want to believe in others too." Danny, in turn, shined on the adaptive BSKE to BLL court. Wearing smart glasses that adjusted for night vision, he took a three-point shot and made it perfectly. Alexander, in the stands, cried with pride, "My son sees stars." Even on a court. The crowning moment came at Alex and Isabella's wedding, held in a simple garden adorned with white flowers. Emily helped carry the dress, while Danny joyfully carried the rings. During the vows, Emily said, "You taught us that believing in someone can change everything." Danny added, "Family isn't perfect, but it's strong when it's together." Through tears, Alexander responded, "I thought wealth was what I built in numbers. Today I know true wealth is courage, science, love, and inclusion." To applause, the rings were exchanged and the kiss sealed the new chapter in the family story. At the reception, lanterns lit the garden. Emily danced without fear. Danny ran confidently across the lawn. Alexander held Isabella in his arms and said, "You changed everything." She replied, "Love and science walk together." You chose to believe. The photo of the whole family under the vase. Lights became a symbol of a simple truth. It's not the diagnosis that defines a destiny, but the courage to love and believe. Final lesson. The greatest legacy isn't money, it's love, science, and inclusion. And that's the end of our story. But now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this tale of love, resilience, and hope? Leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments so I know how much you liked it. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone special, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. And before you go, I've already lined up another even more emotional story that's sure to move you deeply.